All right. Well, then I will get us underway. Welcome everyone to the St. Patrick's Day edition of this Provo Board of Adjustment held on March 17th, 2022. We have a couple of items this evening. Before I get to that, as was just mentioned, I've been asked to read this chair's statement that says, due to Utah County's high level of coronavirus cases, as determined by the state's COVID-19 transmission index, I have determined that conducting meetings with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present there. Therefore, for the next 30 days, all meetings of the Board of Adjustment will be conducted via electronic means. Okay, with that stated, again, as has been the case since we have been online, we will dispense with our normal opening procedures and get into the items of the day. The first item that we have is as follows. Sidney Allsop requests a variance to section 14.14B.050 Provo City Code to reduce the yard requirements from 20 feet to 10 feet for the front and street side yards, from 15 feet to 8 feet for the distance between buildings, and from 20 feet to 4 feet for the rear yard in order to build a new townhome development in the MDR zone located at 690 East, 500 South in the Mazer neighborhood. And I will then turn the floor to staff for their report on the matter.
All right, everyone. So my name is Sione Manoa. I'll be representing our staff. I hope many of you have had the chance to kind of go through the staff report for the hearing today. So I'll get into that. So Sidney Allsop is requesting a variance to the setbacks located at 690 East, 500 South in the now MDR zone. Mr. Allsop was approved back in June 2021 for a rezone from the residential conservation zone to the present MDR zone. These properties combined currently have 0.84 acres. The applicant is subdividing this property with plans to develop a 12-unit townhome. The setbacks in this variance request are from section 1414B.050 Provo City Code 1 through 5 yard requirements. Sidney is requesting a variance to reduce the yard requirements from 20 feet to 10 feet for the front and side yards, from 15 feet to 8 feet for the distance between buildings, and 20 feet to 4 feet for the rear yard. As staff, we recommend that the Board of Adjustment deny the requested variance.
All right. Is there anything more to the report? Sorry.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. No, that's fine. I can take it from there. I didn't want to interrupt you if you were just pausing. Sorry. Well, let's begin. Anyone from the board who would like to pose questions?
I just would like to disclose that
thank you.
I live in the Mazer neighborhood, but I do not have any conflicts with this particular project. So I feel no need to recuse myself on this matter. I do have a question for staff. I assume that this went before the Planning Commission, and I'm just interested in what their findings were.
So yes, a concept plan and rezone went through the Plan Commission and City Council for this property. That's how the MDR zone is on the property today. So now the applicant was required to come back with a project plan. And the expectation is to meet the MDR zone. As you can see on the proposal, that there are some issues with the setbacks of the MDR zone. So that's why we're here at this board to look at the variance requests. The Planning Commission and City Council approved the zone change, knowing that a project plan would have to come back to the Planning Commission.
Okay. I drove past the property and I've looked at the proposed project, and well, maybe I can just ask the developer why they're asking for this variance.
So my name's Sid Allsop, and I'm the one requesting the variance. And the reason that we're requesting all the variances is when we went through our city council hearings, and up to then we were working with our engineer and with staff to get the project layout as shown. We worked through what our setbacks would look like to get to this point, and the project that we presented is what you can see today. We wanted to make sure that we had a product that people could buy and live in, not something that investors were going to buy. So we wanted to make sure the product was big enough, starting with 3-bed, 2-bath, so you could have families in the neighborhood instead of more of a transient community. So that's why you see the product that's up there today.
Sure. No, I do want to give Mr. Allsop an opportunity to make kind of a formal presentation if you would like to. But before I kind of turn the time over to him more formally, do we have any more questions for staff at this point from our board?
I guess I didn't really think that like Maria, I also live in the major area, but do not have any association with that, so I don't need to recuse myself as well. For the staff, is your only reason to deny the variance due to the title, the hardship? Or were there other findings that you guys felt didn't meet the criteria to approve this variance? Was it just the hardship that was self-imposed?
Correct.
There weren't any other reasons why, based on, I'm sure we could look at the plan or whatever that you guys sent, but I don't know if you guys have a screen for that. Because I think you guys sent some PDFs of other findings that you guys have, but maybe it's not on here.
Are you referring to the staff report?
Yeah, because generally you guys go through the 5 criteria to approve the variance. And I was just wondering if you guys had, if the hardship was the only one that wasn't meeting the criteria.
Yeah, that was our main one.
Okay. At this time, I don't have any more questions. I may have more questions after a more in-depth presentation from Mr. Allsop.
Okay. Well, not seeing any other movement from the board, why don't we, Mr. Allsop, if you would like to kind of more formally present your request, that would be a great time.
Sure. So again, the plan that you see up there is what we went through with City Council. And we wanted to make sure that what we showed was something that was going to be appealing to the community. As we went through the community chair at the time, they wanted something that could house families, something that investors weren't just going to buy and then have students in and out of there, every other semester. So we try to make units that were big enough that could accommodate, 2-car garage so people can be in there and not be parking all over the street. But again, size of family and big enough for a family that's not just a couple and a child, but a family that can grow and stay within the area. And so we broke it up into duplexes and triplexes instead of doing, big buildings so that it felt more open in between each unit. And there was reasons for it to feel more spacious, but additionally, the other reasons were we could fit 18 on there. We originally went to 18. Then we went to city council with 15 units. And then as we worked with city council through the hearing, we settled on 12 units. And by doing so, it created more open space and more green areas for people to be in. Other reasons for it, or as you can see, or maybe not see on the plan that's presented, there are elevation lines that show that the property drains to the rear. One engineering reason that we've got it going this way is to make sure that we've got the basin up front. And with the basin up front, we have to then squeeze our homes a little bit so that we can have the rear access and not face onto 500 north. And that leaves all of our drainage coming from the back of the site to the front instead of draining to the community behind us. And additionally, for the sewer, we've got a 6-foot sewer up front in 500 north that we have to flow into. So we got to, again, keep our units closer to the front of the property before we hit that back slope so that we can slide it down. Now, there is an engineering way to make it work by importing a ton of dirt, but then the units are looking up 6 to 8 feet above the neighboring properties, which again, there's an enormous cost to that, but it also just doesn't look good when you've got it sloping down like that. So we've got the reasons of the engineering and then the reasons of what we presented. We wanted to be more family community again, which is what we were told by the neighborhood chair when we were going through our zoning process.
Okay.
And to be clear, you can see on the rear yard setback, it was only 4 feet. It is only for one unit that's at the southeastern corner of the property. It's not that it's on everyone. There's just an example where it's right there. So I have to put it in that way. Otherwise, you can see the other units. It feels more spacious than when you look at the setbacks that we're requesting, or setback variances we're requesting, sorry.
Sure. Thank you. Members of the board, questions for the applicant?
I was just wondering, so just to help understand a little bit. So in the back portion, the rear area, it looks like it says the rear yard from 20 feet to 4 feet, but what is considered the rear yard in this? Because it looks like it's more than 4 feet on this graph. But where are you indicating the 4? Oh, is it just right there in that? Which one?
It's the, here, I'll just point to it real quick.
So it's right here.
Yeah.
So what is the distance for the other units that are but yeah, exactly.
The units that go north and south, those ones do meet it. And then the other ones, we've got plenty of distance between the back of the units to the street going to the other units. It's really just those 2 units right there that it's tighter. One is 8 feet to the building. The other one is from the building envelope. It's 4 feet to the adjacent property owner.
Okay.
And because that's the smallest dimension, we have to go with that request.
But you're also asking for a setback to the front yard. Could you use the pointer? Show me exactly. So from the front of the unit to the sidewalk, is that correct?
Correct. It's front of the unit to the sidewalk, which is 10 feet, which we're requesting. There's still the mow strip up front to the public right away.
So that should be 20 feet, and you're asking for a variance of, is it
10.
8 feet?
It's
10
10
feet.
feet.
10 feet.
Yeah, and that's just to make sure that we have a nicer facade up front. But again, to get all of our units pushed forward on the property up towards 500 north for the drainage and the sewer.
So are you also demolishing everything that's on that? There's a currently like a house there and a garage and all that. Is that just everything being leveled?
Yes,
Okay.
those
And-
buildings have massive structural issues that can't be rehabbed.
Okay.
And what is their current setback of the existing buildings right now?
There.
I don't know. I haven't.
It looks like they fit except for this house down below, or the garage down below is right on the property line.
Mhm. I couldn't tell you how far away it is from the property line. I haven't gone and measured.
When I was driving around down there, there's a house just south of this proposed development. And it looked to be right there. Yeah. It looks like it's a little bit closer to the street. And I couldn't estimate what its setback is. The other houses to the west of your proposed development, their setback currently aligns with the houses that are there. So if your variance was approved, on the north side of the block, they would stick out, probably about, 10, maybe if their setback is 20 feet, your units would project out 10 feet farther than the houses to the west of you. The house that's to the south of you, you might be even on that east side. Have you heard anything, had any communication with the neighbors to the
No.
west and south of you?
As far as their setbacks, no. The building to the west of the property, that's condos. And I don't know what their setback is. However, if it was 20 feet to the back of sidewalk, as it's being measured, then yes, we would be 10 feet from back of sidewalk. They're 20. But again, I can't tell you what it is. I haven't gone out and measured.
I wonder, since staff's kind of primary finding that kind of drives their recommendation to deny the variance stems from this idea of a self-imposed hardship, and I assume that means that they're finding that there are ways to build on this property that don't necessarily follow this particular plan, this particular number of units. Maybe you can, I know you spoke to it a little bit already, but I could use a little bit more information on how you arrived at this particular number of units. And then maybe if you could speak more directly to the hardship piece for why this is an unreasonable hardship, perhaps kind of impeding a property right.
Is that a question for staff or myself?
For yourself.
Okay. As far as it being a self-imposed hardship, I don't find that. It was, we went and again, we applied for 18 units. The MDR zone allows up to 30 units per acre, as I read it before we came in. And, this is 0.84 units. So at that amount, we could have gone to 25, but we wanted to truly make a community that had nice units. So then we went down to 15 with our proposal and then settled on 12. So is it being a self-imposed hardship? No, I don't think so. It's possible for someone to come in and do more units now with the amendment to the development agreement. We felt like us going to 12 with handling the engineering issues that are on the site. We're presenting something that was feasible and desirable for the area. We wanted to make sure this is a small community that people enjoyed when they drove by. And indeed, we're asking for setback variances. However, to make this a nice community that functions without having a need for any sort of storm drain pumps to lift out and pump irrigation out, or have pumps on the sewer to again lift it out to make, because it won't gravity feed if we go to the back of the site. We'll have to have pumps to push it out. If we do that, it becomes less of a desirable community. It becomes a maintenance problem. And again, self-imposed, I don't think so. Self-imposed would be if I came in and requested 24 units and bladed the whole site and requested smaller variances. These variances truly are to make it a more aesthetically pleasing community and to solve some of the engineering struggles on site.
I appreciate you speaking directly to that. Any other questions from the board before we we look at some? Go ahead.
So I'm just trying to, obviously our goal is to understand why you do certain things and our goal is always trying to help the community, help you reach your goals, and approve things within reason that work within reason with the city. For us, obviously, we have to look at the yard requirements and then decide why we should approve this variance. And so, like Andrew was saying, like, is there a way that you could move things around in a different situation, or is it this is the plans and this is the only way? Like, I'm seeing there's a space. Obviously I don't have a pointer, but there's a space here. Can you move the houses down the road around? Like, you guys place the road in the middle here, but can you move it down a little bit, move these two in the middle to another spot? Like, are there adjustments that you can make to try and fit these homes within there without needing the variances? Because basically the reason that we have the variances is to protect the neighbors, to protect the community, keep things safe, right?
And we can make the buildings bigger. Instead of a triplex on top, we can do a fourplex. And instead of a triplex and a duplex on the east side, we could do a sixplex. So there's things like that we can make, but it feels better when you've got space between buildings. When you drive on 500 North and you look in, you don't just see a massive unit. It's instead, a side unit and a triplex, but then you can see a green space and it feels more open instead of just a massive buildings on 500 North.
Sure.
Yeah, and again, if you go to the west side of our property, you're looking at just one building. It extends, I don't know how many feet, but again, it doesn't feel nice. Where if we come in and we provide the spacing between units that we're showing here, it feels more open. It feels like a smaller community than instead of just an area where you've got a couple blocks of townhomes.
It sounds like maybe what you're saying, and this is just me putting it in my own words to make sure I understand, that it's your position that the literal enforcement of the code as it stands would require an inferior product and essentially an eyesore in comparison to what you're able to do if there's some variances allowed.
With the variances, we can create a nicer community than if I just strictly follow the MVR code setbacks. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So
go ahead.
On the one corner where you're the closest, the 4 feet, you have a neighbor there on that corner. Have we heard anything from that neighbor? Are they mentioning anything about they feel that it's too close to the?
We've tried to contact that neighbor, and we haven't had any success with it.
Is that a rental property or is that a single family homeowner, or do we know?
We don't know, as we've never been able to contact them. If they've emailed something in, we haven't seen it.
And these units, they are duplex, so they're 2-story, 1 level is a family and then the upper level is a family, or are they senior students, or what are they?
It'll be single family, so there's not one family on one level and then another family on another level. Each building is for one person to own.
So one family homes, and you're going to sell these? They're not going to be.
Yeah, we're gonna sell them.
So my question is this: obviously, we're trying to make the best with. I mean, we're just average citizens of Provo that are trying our best to help here, and so what my understanding was is with what you described was that the city would approve you to make sixplexes or fourplexes and be within the variance like space, but they would just be high rises or sixplexes or whatever. The city's suggested that they would approve those in that area, or are you not sure if they would approve those?
I haven't talked to the city. This would be a question for Aaron and staff here. I haven't asked that because we want to make sure that we get this plan. If I have to change it at that time, then we'll, bridge that. But we really do want to go forward with this plan as we feel it's a good looking plan.
Yeah.
In looking at this plan that's up on the screen, and going a little bit off what Wes was saying, if you took those two units, the one that's closest to the neighbor's property that's 4 feet away, that one right there, if you took those two units, yes, those two, and if you separated them and put one, it would be one large wall, but if you put one of those in that space that's there on the west side, so you'd have 6 units all together. I know it doesn't fit currently. You'd have to scooch those properties down.
Yeah,
and then take the other one and put it just across the road from it. So you'd have 3 in a row. You wouldn't need the variance for that corner, and that would leave some space there for maybe a playground or a barbecue pit or something like that the people who live there might enjoy.
And we can shift units around like you're requesting. We've got space to do that. It's again to avoid having just a big wall of buildings. If I just didn't want to have a sixplex on that side over there. If the city is interested in that, I can do that. We just really want to present something more space as you walk through.
Is there going to be a fence there along the west side?
If there isn't, there will be. We'll put one up. I believe there is, but if there's not, I would want a fence over there.
I do appreciate your desire to have green space there along 500 South. I think that has a lot of appeal, and I'd hate for you to, put another building along there and have a large wall there. But there is a home or a condos there along the west side. And I think if you're going to have a large wall anywhere, that would be the place to do it.
Yeah, I agree. If I was going to do it, that's a good place for it. Understood.
Another comment. So again, we're trying to just do what we can to approve however we can if it works within the way we see it. Tell me a little bit more about this back area. You're pushing a lot of units up here in the front. Is there any way to push it back, or is it unbuildable back there due to how it is set up or whatever? Because that could be a type of hardship that if you can't even use that space, then you would have to move it up. Is it buildable back there? Can you push it back? Tell us a little more about that.
So as it drops from where those buildings are, the elevation lines show there's 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4.5 feet drop between those units to the adjacent property. And to go back that deep into it, you have to fill that area. And to fill that area, then it's going to be raising up my property by 4.5 feet up against the back fence of that property. So then everything is, if the wall is 6 foot, which I believe is 6'8" is city standard, we're now only have a 2-foot wall behind us. And everything is then looking over into the adjacent property. There's that fill issue, but the other issue again is the drainage. We want to make sure that we can keep that natural grade so that everything falls to the front of the site, and that's how we're trying to get it. If we can keep it that way, then all the drainage stays in the street, stays in our curb, or it goes into storm drain into our detention basin. Again, for the sewer, if we continue to go back that deep or that far, then our sewer has to have, I think it's a 1% or a 0.5% grade. And with the 6-foot depth up in the street, as you start to fall down, we have to then pump it out. So by keeping everything closer, we're avoiding having to do the extra sewer improvements, storm drain improvements, but then the fill or the grading hardships.
I'm not an engineer, but it looks like if you could shift just those 2 units, you wouldn't have to venture too far to the rear of your property, and then you wouldn't have to need as many variances.
I think that's correct. We could shift one of the units, make a block of 6 units on the west side of the property, and then make that duplex or triplex. We have space to do that, and then the side setback for the unit that would be on that new triplex is only 10 feet to the right of way. And how it looks right now, it might work. I can't say without opening up and redesigning it, but I think that's a feasible option for us.
I think if you could do that, and then that would require fewer variances, then I think you could have a good plan here.
I agree.
Yeah, the only one that really concerns me is that one that sits 4 feet from the property. I hate it when we start trying to allow variances when people are butting so close to the property that, you know, then the neighbor feels like they're being pushed right upon, and it starts making it feel like everything's moving towards their property. The only one I have concern with is just the one there on the corner that's 4 feet from the corner.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
do we,
go ahead.
you're good. You can go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say if we could get the variances and then eliminate the rear yard from 20 to 4, I believe then that would make, by shifting the 2 units around, that would make the site work.
Is Mr. Pepperoni in the room at all?
He just walked out.
I don't have any more questions, Andrew. For now, we can go into discussion for me, but that's.
I wanted to. Is there anyone representing the community there?
There isn't in the room, but let's open it up for public comment if that's what you're alluding to, Andrew.
Well, I was thinking about that as a separate step. But if there's no one from the community chairs or otherwise, then let's go ahead and do that before we start to deliberate more as a board.
No public comments, 30 seconds. So I sent out some community letters on item 1 where the vice chair sent out to board commissioners that were public comments on the item.
Could we have staff read those letters? From my recollection, they're not particularly long.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have currently 5 comments from those in the neighborhood. This is coming from a Zach Johnson. It says, do we know how many individual homes are they planning on building? Seems to me they're trying to stuff as many as possible. The lot is neglected since it was sold. Anything's an improvement over there, over what there is now. There's another comment that was said, keep the 15 feet between homes. Another comment says, I like the denial, keep it in place. Another comment, I feel like this is the same property that when they received the neighborhood feedback of 12 units, seems like too much for that lot / space. The property is already zoned for 12 units and we intend to follow that zoning guidelines. Here's the plat concept quote from the developer to the Mazer neighborhood chair / email list. The proposed variances are so small. They're all narrower than the driveway is supposed to be. Minimum is 12. And they want the townhomes to be that close to each other, adjacent properties, the streets. It sounds like they need to change their design rather than the request variance. And then the last one says, I'm not in favor of the yard requirements. That's too small. What do I need? Who do I need to contact? The planning commission, maybe a handful of like-minded residents could all step and attend the meeting if we are welcome to do so. Staying quiet in a situation like this could allow permanent negative changes to our neighborhood. That's it.
No public comments for item 1.
Thank you. Well, then I guess we can move into our deliberation phase before we move to a vote.
I can start. So while, I can appreciate a lot of the things that are happening with the home building, improving the area. I mean, the space that it has right now doesn't, anything is an improvement basically. I personally don't see it meeting the criteria of reasonable hardship. Also, it kind of feels like it doesn't go along with the plan of the city as well. A lot of the requests are high density requests, which is more of a downtown kind of feel rather than up in the neighborhood area. Do they need to have the space between, maybe the people who want to live there actually, are looking for a home that is super close. I don't know. We don't know, but what we do know is that these requirements for the land are there to kind of protect the neighborhood a little bit. And so I'm kind of in the camp of denying the request until they find a better solution that kind of works with the plan of the neighborhood. Basically not necessarily needing, 20 feet instead of 10. I think that makes a big difference on the feel of the neighborhood. 8 feet between 15, maybe that's not as big of a deal. I'm not as concerned with the 20 feet, the 4 feet, if they moved one house over. But as it stands, I don't see any reason why I would approve it. So, but I'm willing to talk. Those are just my thoughts initially.
This is Nam with Development Services. We had a hand go up just as the comments were closing. Do you want to allow the public comment to be made?
Yes, let's go ahead.
Caller 648, go ahead. Press *6 to unmute. Caller 648, press *6 to unmute.
This is Soraya Hillam. I'm one of the Mazer Neighborhood Vice Chairs. And the response that we got, I sent them on and they were read just a little bit ago. The response has been pretty much that people want to see the plan followed for the neighborhood to make sure that we actually have a plan that's made and that we go through. I think Bethany Patrick asking about what she felt like maybe this had been come through before. That one is because we've had people come with a 12 unit, trying to put 12 units into a small space before that we kind of sent back, and we don't know if it's the same project or not, but that has been something that's happened a number of times within our neighborhood where people try to put tons of things into a small space. We have found that sometimes not having enough of a setback really can negatively impact the way that a neighborhood feels. We understand that having condos next to it can make that a little bit less of an obvious. There is on the chat on the YouTube, there's also RC Hales says that I own property to the east of the project. I think the proposed development looks nice and the developer has put a good design together. It will improve the neighborhood. So there's a feeling that we do want to have something there. Preference is that we actually follow through and that staff has done a good job at trying to make sure that the plan that has been put into place with a lot of input from the city is actually being followed, versus just whenever whenever it's not as feasible or as profitable to just want to ignore those type of things. So that's the feedback that we've gotten from the neighborhoods. It isn't everybody, it's kind of the people who have been in the neighborhood for a long time and have been involved for a very long time are the ones who made comments on this. And that's kind of the feedback that I wanted to give as a general viewpoint of the neighborhood, and say that yes, we are here and have been watching. I just didn't know how to raise my hand very well. Thanks.
Can you state your name for the record?
Yes. My name is Soraya Hillam, and I'm one of the Mazer Neighborhood Vice Chairs. Did that go through?
It did. Thank you. All right. Well, we certainly appreciate input from the neighborhood. As we kind of pick up where we left off, discussing as a board. Other comments?
Yeah, staff, I'm a little bit confused. That property got rezoned. Can they put a high-rise 15 unit on that property, or has it been decided that 12 units is what they can put on there no matter what it is?
So when the council approved the rezone, they did it with a development agreement. So there are some limitations just by the development agreement itself on the property. While the zone would allow such uses, the development agreement would not.
So in essence, what we're saying is they can go in and put a high rise that has 12 units on it and have the setbacks, and everything will be fine. It'll be fine to go. They won't have to look for any zoning changes. They won't have to go through the Board of Adjustments or anything else. Or they can do something that's more of a single family dwelling, but that's a little bit closer, that comes in on encroachments on setbacks and so forth. I like their plan. I like the way it looks. The only thing that bothers me is the one corner there where they're coming so close to the property line. If they could move that one unit, I would be in favor of it.
My comments are going to come close to what Wes said. I like the continuity when you look down a street in any neighborhood and you see pretty much consistent setbacks. I think it's important, especially when we start adding density, that we do maintain, perhaps not exactly the letter of the law, but as close to it as possible. Because as we start adding density, people will enjoy having that front yard space. And not just the people whose units front 500 South there, but everyone who's going to be living there will enjoy having that space to be able to walk with their kids, walk with their dogs, and just enjoy when we have good weather and stuff like that. It's going to be important in the future as people live there and get out and want to socialize. It may not seem so now when we're just looking at a 2D drawing, but it will in the future. I think if the developer can move one or both of those units that we've been discussing, that he'll be able to adjust the other setbacks and still be able to have the 12 units that he needs to make this development profitable, but will be able to conform to the setback requirements that the city is asking him to. And I think that it will overall be a good development and a good addition to the neighborhood. So for now, I would say no, but with those changes made, I would vote for it, although I don't think I would need to, because I don't think they'd have to come before the Board of Adjustment again.
Just for
And to clarify, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Wes.
And
Go ahead, Wes.
just to clarify, I'm probably along the same lines as Maria. They probably would still need to come back for an adjustment to the variance with the homes, the space between the homes. I believe that's the one change that would probably need to happen. And I'd have to research it a little bit more, but I'd almost feel like that's probably an okay thing, given that maybe they have approval to do other big buildings that would, be one big massive sixplex versus single family homes with a variance. It's kind of a different trade-off. So, but they still may need to do that variance if they're going to do this regardless. But so I don't know if we can approve that part of it, but probably not.
I'd actually like to have that procedural question answered as just to the extent of our opportunity here to work with the applicant, because I certainly wouldn't want, and it sounds like this, and I'm of course interpreting here, but it sounds like the neighborhood doesn't necessarily want to say go away. They also don't want to say we don't want to kind of. I wouldn't like to say, that we're going to kind of literally enforce these things and ultimately, end up with this kind of, unfortunate product that that results. Or otherwise give a developer kind of, generally speaking, a motivation to kind of just, build an eyesore as kind of a well, look what I can do. Which I don't think I'm not saying that Mr. Allsop is proposing that at all. I think he's working quite well with the neighborhood and that sort of thing. But that's my question to staff. Do we have the ability here to consider an alternative rather than just an all up or an all down, all yes or all no?
Yeah, because there are multiple variances being requested here tonight, you could approve some and deny others. You could approve them all, you could deny them all. Or you could consider an adjustment to one of the variances and approve that. So all those things are on the table for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This may have been a question back to the board. Do we feel like that kind of conversation would be fruitful?
Speaking only for myself, I think that I'm not comfortable cutting the front yard setback in half. I think that there does need to be a bit more than just a 10-foot setback for the reasons that I stated earlier. So I'll let that comment just speak for itself.
Any other board members want to speak to this idea of perhaps considering some of these variances individually or otherwise, working with Mr. Allsop perhaps to see if we can help him sort this out in a way that would save him from having to come before us again, unless I think so, a second time.
Like I said before, anytime you can build more of a single family dwelling and get away from the high rise that looks more like a student housing or whatever, unless you're right in the middle of a whole bunch of student housing. I kind of like it, and I like the way the development lays out there. I think it looks good on the property. It does encroach on the front of the property a little bit. I don't know if there's a way to set that back up further away from there. It would probably help. It would probably look better than pulling the home so close to the main road. The only concern that really bothers me is back on the one corner where we only have 4 feet away from the neighboring property. There's just one unit there that's really tight. I don't know if there's any way to fix that or not, but I guess that's entirely up to the developer. But I'm in favor of helping them out any way we can, as long as we don't make the neighborhood feel like that we're not looking for their needs and their concerns.
Yeah, I also just want to, just before anybody makes a motion, I do want to point out that while it can be zoned for higher density or multi-unit things, it isn't in the correct zone to be able to, they wouldn't be able to build a 15-story high-rise there. That's not within it has to be in a certain area in the zone to be able to build those. But so, I mean, they'd still have to work within the means of certain zoning in that area. But so that's just one thought that, this isn't an either or. I think that we all want to try and work within the means that the neighborhood has given us. If we're just going straight with just straight logic, straight judicial lines, I agree with the staff report that they're kind of unreasonable hardship. I mean, it's not unreasonable hardship, and they've kind of self-imposed it because they could move things around and make it a little bit more fitting for the neighborhood. I know they don't want to do a sixplex or, you know, different situations there, but I'm kind of in the camp where I would probably reject the proposal until there's an actual, you know, fits a little bit more with the neighborhood. I'm willing, I personally am willing to look past, you know, the setback between homes, or the distance between homes. But that's kind of where I'm standing on things. I'm probably leaning towards denying the variance until there's some adjustments, or yeah, like Maria said, they don't need to come back to us because they've made the adjustments and they just go for approval. And that's kind of where I'm at.
I wonder, you know, and again, this me trying to understand, you know, what levers we might have to work with here. Does it save anyone any hassle if, for example, you know, yeah, Wes, you know, rather than us kind of arbitrarily, well, it's not really arbitrary, but, you know, using our best judgment, as limited as it might be, as far as expertise, you know, picking which ones of these make the most sense. But instead of going through that process, perhaps we did something like, you know, grant a furtherance of some sort, you know, circle it. That might, you know, save there from needing to be a whole new application process, and allow the developer time to propose a different plan more in line with the feedback that's been given from the board and from the neighborhood. Any thoughts on that sort of approach, or how people are, or we can make the motion, so maybe we can consider that.
Provo City, I just have a question with that. If we decide to continue this and meet again on it, can they make adjustments to their plans to present to us, or is it just we just need to talk more because we need more information?
Yeah, I mean, if you chose to continue it, they could, if they wanted to and were willing to, adjust their request and bring it back to you with the same application. That's perfectly within the actions available to you.
I guess the other question is, would Mr. Allsop, sorry, I'm probably saying your name wrong. Would that even be interesting to you or not?
I guess that's a question that I have with staff is, if I go through and make everything conform to the MDR zone, do I even need to bring it back? You know, let's say I shift those units down.
Not to this board.
No. Yeah, so if I just do a sixplex on the west side, shift it down 10 feet, and then make a triplex on the other side from it, and then shift that down so the side setback works, pull that road down 10 feet, because we've got space now to do that. If I conform it that way, you're okay with having a sixplex over there and a triplex and a triplex, then I may not even have to do it.
The only reason you'd have to come back here is if you want to vary from any of the codes that apply to the property.
Okay. If that's the case, I'd prefer to go this way, but if staff is amenable to us doing a sixplex over there, then we'll just go do a sixplex over there and start shifting things around and make it work.
Would you still need a side yard variance?
At that time, we would, well, yes, we actually would, because on that triplex, we would be pretty close to the right of way coming in. So we would need the side setbacks on the north side and the east side and on the interior road. So it would be the side setbacks that we'd need the variance on that we'd have to come forward with. But with the front, we wouldn't need, and then with the rear yard, we wouldn't need. And the distance between the buildings would become irrelevant because they would have plenty of space between the sixplex and the 3 triplexes. Or the 2 triplexes, sorry.
I'd feel more comfortable with that.
I would feel more comfortable just granting a single variance than all of these that we're being asked to grant now. And Mr. Allsop, just a question, and again, I'll say this, I'm not an engineer, but you know, you're going to be digging up the ground, you know, for this whole project. And you've explained a couple of times the slope that you need for the sewer. Are you not able to achieve that slope when you have the ground dug up? Are you not able to achieve the necessary slope?
So the problem is the distance between the rear of the site and the invert of the pipe coming in at the main right of way to the north of the site where 500 north is. So we have a minimum slope that we have to hit. And being that it's 6 feet and our buildings by code have to go down 36 inches for our pipes. So we're now starting at 3 feet and have to hit a minimum slope to get to 6 feet. That's, you know, a few hundred feet away. And because we've got that minimum slope and it's called gravity feed where it just slides down the pipe, we have a distance that we just can't go beyond. And we're getting really, really close to where those units are right there.
Okay, thank you for explaining it again.
Do we have a motion? Is there further conversation that anyone would like to add before we move into that?
I'm not sure how it would be worded. I move that we deny applicant's proposal for, oh, I don't have it in front of me.
Well, why don't we
The front yard variance and the back set variance.
So staff can I make a motion that we deny all of the variances except for the side yard? Let's see, the street side yard?
Yeah, you can make a motion to approve the street side yard variance and to deny the other 3. If that's what you intend to do.
Do I need to name the other 3 variances as they're named in the item?
No, you don't.
Okay, then I move that we deny Sidney Allsop's request for variances from section 14.14b.050 to reduce the yard requirements except for the street side yard in order to build a new townhome development in the MDR zone located at 690 East, 500 South in the Mazer neighborhood.
And in that motion, if you could just cite the variance that you're motioning to allow in that street side yard. The distance.
The distance,
2 feet is requested.
okay, down from 20 feet to 10 feet. Is that
Give me a
good?
second. Do we have anyone who will second that?
So does that make it so that they can put the sixplexes in a row down the, I think it's on the south side, and make it work?
I'll second that, West Marriott.
Yeah, so that's my understanding is that he, in making this motion, that he has to move those two units that are kind of in the middle. The one that needed the 4-foot rear yard variance, that he's moving those two buildings. That's my understanding in making this motion.
Is that correct, staff?
Well, it really doesn't preclude him from doing other different sites. What you're really granting is just the street side yard variance here from 20 to 10. So whatever options he can build with that variance in mind.
I'm actually kind of.
Well, I like the green space though there in the front. I'd hate for that to be gone.
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm not, I pull away my second, sorry, Maria.
No, you're fine.
I'm kind of in the camp at this point with the proposals and the variances. I make a motion to deny the variances as they stand. So that's my motion, in hopes that he can fit things within the means that the city has already set. There's no reasonable hardship. There's no real reason for us to grant this beyond us being afraid that he's going to build some ugly sixplex, which is beyond our control regardless. So there's no real reason to grant this that would, in my opinion, it would just impact the city, and it would go against what the criteria is to allow a variance. So I'm making a motion to deny, and I'm sorry, I'm all for development and great things, but it just needs to fit within what the city has set forth. And so I make a motion to deny the variances and uphold the staff's recommendation.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Do we have a second for Wes's motion?
I'll second Wes's motion.
All right, well then I will go through and we'll take a vote. Wes?
Yes, for West Marriott.
Maria?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And Andrew Rennick, yes. So with that decision, the staff report is accepted, or recommendation is accepted, and the request for variance is denied on item 1. Let's move on to item
And
two.
I do want to just say
Go ahead,
before,
Wes.
thanks for all your time. I know this isn't the potential answer you wanted from us, and we just deliberated for a long time on that. And I just really appreciate you being here and going through all the proper process in Provo. So, and we wish you the best of luck with all your developments and stuff over there.
Hey, no, thank you. You know, we'll keep moving through. We appreciate your time.
Hey, Andrew, I already talked, but I actually have to drop early. But you guys still have a quorum, so you guys can take it without me.
Okay, well, then assuming that the rest of us can maintain a quorum, then we'll excuse Wes and we'll carry on with item 2.
Okay, we'll see you guys.
Thanks, Wes. So I will read item 2 into the record, and we will give staff an opportunity to make their report. Item 2, Eric Merrill requests a variance to section 14.10.100 to vary the height limits in order to build an accessory building within the R1.10 one-family residential zone located at 2588 West, 1210 North in the Lakeview North neighborhood. I know that I failed to do this for the first one. I won't make that mistake again. Anyone, before we get going, have any conflicts of interest to declare? I do live in the Lakeview area, but have no conflict of interest to declare. So let's go ahead with staff report.
Okay, thank you. My name is Aaron Ardmore. I am the staff representing this staff report for item 2. So just to get you familiar with the property, here you are on Geneva Road and 1210 North. The property is highlighted here. You can see there's an existing home. From the street, this is what it looks like. As you probably saw in the staff report, there is some grade on the property. You can see that through this fence section here as it slopes down to this level, a little lower than the home. And the applicant has provided these pictures from his perspective from the street and in his backyard. Overlaying the proposal on top of the aerial, you can see where the proposed accessory building would be in the south or northwest corner in the rear yard, and its adjacency to the other 2 homes. Kind of zooming in, you can see that it is considered a detached structure. It is more than 6 feet away from the home, and then he's got the setbacks as shown here. So the main variance request on this one is for height, not for setbacks. So the height as measured in Provo City for accessory building, the proposal exceeds that height, mainly because of the height of the wall due to the slope of the roof. Although the peaks are at the same point, due to the definitions of Provo City Code, the accessory building is measured as higher than the existing single-family home. I've got elevations here as well. If you want to point to any of those in your with the board discussion, and I've got the floor plans and the photos that the applicant provided of secondary or accessory buildings that he went and took pictures of that he believes to be bigger than the primary dwelling or the primary use on the property. As you read through the staff report, you can see that we are recommending denial on this one as well. We feel that there are other ways to do this that wouldn't require a variance. So we are recommending denial. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for staff? I'm comfortable moving forward. Is the applicant available for comment?
Yeah, I see he's on the Zoom call. Mr. Merrill, if you want to unmute.
Okay, did that help?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, very good. I want to thank you all for taking your personal time, the staff, and also the board members. I realize you're unpaid and you're doing this out of the goodness of your hearts to help maintain and improve the community and its appearance and feel. And thank you very much for that. Is this where I don't know, help me out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Merrill, I do appreciate that, the acknowledgement of who and what we are. Now would be an ideal time if you would like to kind of present your request and your maybe some of your reasoning behind it, any other things that you think would be relevant for the board to consider. And then just so that you're aware, this will be followed up with opportunities for neighborhood chairs and other concerned community members to contribute should they wish to do so beyond the letters that have been submitted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is, of course, my primary residence. It's, at this point, my forever home. Don't plan on moving anywhere. And I would like to build this additional garage, which is on the bottom, and then the bonus room on top, where I'd mentioned I would put my taxidermied animals. In order to have a functioning garage, it needs to be taller than 8 feet. I'm unable to even get my truck inside the garage with an 8-foot ceiling, and then you put a 12-inch header across that, and then a 2x12 to frame it. I can't even get my truck inside. And then upstairs, I would like a taller room as well, more than 8 feet, so that I might be able to display my animals and just have a better feel. So in order for me to realize my desires here, I really would like the 10-foot, basically 10-foot ceilings for that to work. I realize, well, I only have so much property to build this on, and I've kept it within all of the setbacks, and those aren't an issue from what I understand. It's just the height and the way the height is measured. And I'm all for rules. I'm all for laws, everything to, keep our city and neighborhoods functioning and looking beautiful. I just struggle with the way that the height is measured because in my situation, the code does not do me any favors in that I believe that I can still build a 2-story structure as tall as my home. And when I say as tall as my home, I'm talking actual height. You could draw a line across both, like shown there. But if I choose to, but that would put a steep pitch on it if I did that. It would put the same pitch as what is on the east side of my home. And in doing that steep pitch, it chamfers the walls and the ceiling, and it makes that room upstairs more of a bonus room and not a very large room, and definitely not very tall ceilings. I guess the problem I have is my next door neighbor has a home, if you will, that looks like my shop, so to speak. It's 2-story and it has a shallow roof. Now, he can have a shop if he desired that would look just like my shop with a shallow roof, and it would be called the same height. He can also have a shop with a steeper pitch roof, which would have exactly the same height straight across. And it works for him too, because they would measure that as lower. Yet they're both really the same height. I believe that this method of measurement in my situation and any other person who wishes to do what I want, it is punitive, but it allows other people to have whatever style roof they want. Yeah, you know, the committee, not the committee, but the staff has mentioned that that what I desire is, you know, is a self-imposed hardship. And I would argue that everything we want in life is a self-imposed hardship. And I would like to be able to utilize my property. I would like to live here and enjoy it for the rest of my life. I believe that the proposal I have proposed satisfies the spirit of the law, in that the structure is not any taller than my home. It's the exact same height, but because of the way it's measured, it is claimed to be taller. I've gone to great lengths to visit with all my neighbors, especially those who it would affect the most. And everybody, you know, you have a map that shows everyone I've talked to, and people are in support of it. I've had many letters written, and I believe there may or may not, there'll probably be a person or two that'll join the meeting and comment as well. I also have the support of our neighborhood chair. And I just feel that that this isn't too much to ask, if you will. There is, well, anyways, why don't we leave it there and have you guys ask me questions? I'm happy to answer anything.
Sure. Yeah. And on that note, let's open that up to the board to ask the applicant any questions they might have.
Mr. Merrill, I have a question concerning your wall space. If you have to change that roof and chamfer the walls, that actually mitigates the purpose of that room to allow for your mounts to fit on those walls. Is that correct?
It absolutely does. If the variance is denied and I'm not able to go forward with this structure the way it is, which satisfies you know, the needs that I have, I will more than likely have to abandon the second story and just put that on the ground and not have an additional garage, or do something that wouldn't look as well off to the side, which wouldn't be a real garage. It'd be a 16-foot by maybe 20-foot something. So yeah, putting the chamfer, you know, not being able to allow this shape of roof, it just really doesn't lend well at all. And I just can't work with it. It's too short of ceilings for both the garage and the upstairs. Like I mentioned, if I shortened it to the 8 foot per floor, you literally can't even stand an 8-foot ladder up in it, because an 8-foot ladder is 8 foot when the legs are spread open. When it's closed, it's more like 8'6". So it's really short.
And you've already stated the fact that I understand you go wide with a door garage, 2-car garage, and that 8-foot ceiling starts looking quite low. And like you've said, by the time you get your headers in and everything, then you've dropped your height so low that you can't put a truck into the garage. Is that correct?
I literally cannot. I have a pickup truck and I have a shell on it. It's a standard shell you can purchase, and you literally cannot drive it inside. And then also the way the building is built, or I propose to build, there is a beam that would support the upper floor that is going to dip down into that area as well. The building will be tasteful. It will be beautiful. It will match the exterior and the style of my home. And it will not be any taller, literally. It's just the letter of the law describes it as taller, but the spirit of the law, it does not exceed the height of my current home. There are other shops in the area. I've provided some pictures that they do have homes with shops that are the same height as their home. The one in the upper right, the Val Gardson home. Beautiful home, beautiful garage. It shares the same pitch, but it is the same height, and that works. You can see how small the window is, and the bonus room is up there. They've chosen to go with really tall garage and nothing much up above. But then again, I'm just showing there that the literal height of those two buildings is the same, and that's all I'm asking for. There's another one, the Taylor residence in the on the right side. He's also built a shop that's the same height as his own home, literal height. So literal height really seems to be, I think what we're striving for as far as beauty and symmetry and making things not stand out. The Mays just built a structure off of Geneva Road. They're on the left, and they have single-story, older style brick homes. And there may be something there I'm not aware of because it is Geneva Road, zoned differently. But the structure they've built is quite large. It's quite large, and mine would look nothing like that. So that's just kind of where I'm at with this. Any questions for me?
I have none, Maria.
I'm a little confused. You said that this garage would be the exact same height as your home, but the staff report indicated that it would be about 5 feet higher.
That's where the confusing part, and that's what's very difficult to understand, because the way they measure the height of a building is not actually how tall a building actually is. My building that I propose would be the exact same literal height as my home, as are many other garages in the neighborhood.
So how tall would the garage be, the proposed garage?
It would be the exact same height as the main roof of my home.
Which is what height?
You have to bear with me. I'm a mechanic. I've got to try and look through this real quick without. It would be.
Maria, if you're talking about the peak, from the ground to the peak, his plans are showing 29.5 or 29 feet 5 inches.
Thank you, Aaron.
For the garage?
To the peak of the home and to the peak of the garage. However, as alluded to in the staff report, Provo measures to the midpoint of the roof for height.
All right, thank you.
So I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
So just to make it clear for me, so what we're saying is the heights of both buildings will be identical. It's actually the slope of the roof line to the height of that roof, the lower edge of the roof line, I can't think of what I want to call it. The bottom edge of the roof on his garage will be higher than the bottom edge of the roof on his house. Is that correct?
That's right. So we measure halfway between the peak and the lowest eave. Is that word that escapes us? Yeah. So that's where we measure the height. So that's why it's different between the two buildings.
Thank you.
Maybe I can ask this question. And maybe this is just academic, but Mr. Merrill, invokes this idea of kind of a literal interpretation versus an intended interpretation, kind of spirit of the law. is there anything anyone can explain to me why you come up with the value or what the city might be trying to protect or maintain by measuring roof height the way that it does?
So this definition of building height was put in before my time at the city. So motivations are hard to describe. Bill might have something extra here.
Measuring building height to the midpoint of a roof is very common among city ordinances. The reason for that is there's all different roof pitches. And so rather than have to go through a very complex ordinance that has got a different height for every different roof pitch, the way cities just simplified is to say, here's the building height. If you have a flat roof, that's your height. If you have a sloped roof, it's measured to the midpoint of that sloped roof.
And I'm just going to play a little dumb here because I want to make sure that I'm not making assumptions that don't exist. Midpoint of a roof refers to
the midpoint between the highest peak and the lowest eave.
Okay.
Measured from average grade, average finished grade.
So the quirk of the land here, in that there is kind of a grade drop off on the one side, is then irrelevant.
No, because that drop off would be where the finished grade is. So you'd measure from that.
Okay, I thought you meant when you said average finished grade, I thought you meant like across the whole property somehow.
Per each facade. Sorry.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Merrill before we open it up for community comment or community chair comment?
Yeah, I have one more. Mr. Merrill, I assume you've had a engineer from the report. It sounds like you've had an engineer go through everything, engineer the trusses and everything. So snow impact and so forth on the roof, that's all covered. It's within code and should be taken care of. Is that correct?
Yes, it's been professionally designed by an architect and also stamped by a structural engineer for everything. So when I've been to the community office or the city office many times before I started this process. And I know it's my responsibility in some ways. Well, I asked many questions, how far from here can I be? How far from the back wall? What can I do? And I thought I had all my ducks in a row. And I'm not placing blame, but when I did ask how tall my building could be, they said it cannot exceed the height of your current structure. I had no idea that the way of measuring played a factor. Having said that, the structure still, it wouldn't accommodate my needs if we followed that. It sounds like the code was adopted for an ease of measuring things. And I can appreciate that because cities go through thousands of building permits, but it still sounds to me that the letter of the law is met. The structure is not taller than the existing home, thus maintaining the appearance and neighborhood beauty, if you will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions for Mr. Merrill from the board, is the community chair or vice chair available for comment?
No public comments at this time. 30
Okay,
seconds.
well, yeah, exactly.
I do have a neighbor who came over. I believe would like to make a comment if that's okay. He is here.
Yeah, please, if they would state their name for the record, and then please make a comment, and we ask that they be brief.
Yes, this is Dean Anderson, and I'm a neighbor right across the street from Eric and Michelle. I have reviewed their plans. They've sat down with me and we've reviewed them quite extensively. I believe we'd be one of the main ones who would be seeing the structure. I don't think there would be, I don't know, 1 in 20, 1 in 50 people that would notice the difference, that the pitch of the roof would be different than other pitches. It's not taller than the house. I think that's important. The other thing I notice is from my front porch, as I look at his yard, the main thing I see is the huge house behind his house. That home is much larger, much taller than the homes in our neighborhood. So when I look at his house, the main thing I see is over the top of his roof to the larger house to the north of his house. I don't think his structure would even be noticed because of the large structure behind. I don't know if there's very many people that would notice the structure difference. I would strongly encourage you and respectfully encourage that you approve this variance. I think it's appropriate. Everything Mr. Merrill does in building his home and his yard is beautifully constructed. It's done well, and it's in keeping with what I think our neighborhood and our community standards are. So I would recommend you approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any other public comment?
No additional public comments.
All right. Well, let's start discussing as a board, just for, I guess, public information. Because we are down to a quorum of 3 for this item, we require a unanimous vote.
I drove past the site in question, noticed Mr. Merrill's home, the neighboring homes. I've read the comments. There doesn't seem to be anybody against this proposal. Even the neighborhood chair, it looks like, is given a heads up on a thumbs up on the proposal. So I'm comfortable with it.
I can understand, in looking at the house and then the submitted plans for the garage in relation to the house, I can understand why there is a code like this on the books. To me, just looking at the drawings, this garage looks like it just will almost just dwarf the house. It just looks so large and imposing. And so I can understand why there's a, like I said, like there's a code like this. However, variances are around because codes aren't a one size fits all. And I can understand how in his case, in needing to, this structure needs to perform a specific function for him. Yes, it's for a personal use, and it, but nobody has objected, nobody that lives near him. And so for that reason, I'm not finding, well, for that, and I'm just not finding any reason to object to it.
I'm of a similar opinion here. Marie, I think you captured everything that I would have liked to say. Do we? So it sounds like maybe we're prepared for for a motion? Is there further deliberation we'd like to make before we do that?
You cut off, Andrew. I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
Sorry, I was just essentially asking if we're prepared for a motion.
I'm sorry, Andrew, what you're saying is you'd like a motion?
Yeah, I apologize if I'm having some microphone issues perhaps, but yeah, I'm wondering if we're prepared for a motion, and if so, if someone would like to make it.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve this variance. I think that while there are reasons for height restrictions and things of that sort, I think this home fits within the developments that are around that area, and I believe that it's going to be pleasing to the eye. So I make a motion that we approve this variance for Mr. Merrill.
Tom, could you include
sorry, maybe you're going to make the same point as I was going to say, that if we're going to overturn staff's decision, we need to build a reason to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, like I say, if I was to build a building of that sort, I have trophies within my house, and I understand that you have to have straight walls to put them on. And if you're going to build a room for those, and it doesn't have the height to put those trophies in the room, you just build a worthless building for what you want. And if you can't pull your vehicles into the garage, I don't know why you're building a garage. And so it would seem to me that the while maybe the letter of law isn't being followed, the spirit of the law is being followed, and you know, I think that if we don't approve this, that we're not going to be able to allow Mr. Merrill to have the kind of building he wants, to have the kind of comfort that he's looking for, and it would seem to be a worthless building.
So perhaps, Tom, would it be fair to say that, you know, kind of like literal enforcement would cause undue hardship? Is that kind of where we want to, or are you proposing that we settle it there?
To me, yeah, that you know, he'll face hardships that he won't be able to have what he wants, and it seems like he's following every step the way he should, except for that lower line on the roof, the eave. So it would seem to me that there's a hardship there.
So then, if I'm just kind of making sure that we're on the same page, it sounds like then that the Tom has made a motion to overturn, or to deny staff's
prove the
and approve the variance request, citing, you know, undue hardship if we were to allow the code to be literally enforced. Are we right there, Tom?
Yeah, that'd be correct.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, well, let's go through a vote. Let's go through our vote. Please state your name and your vote. Tom.
Andrew,
Tom
if I could-
Halliday.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on a minute.
if I could interrupt, if the motion could include a numerical value to the variance, whether that's 5 feet or more or less, that's what would be needed for this report.
I appreciate you stepping in front of the train. So yeah, let's Tom, then, since you made the motion, let's allow you to
So I
amend
make
that
a
motion.
motion to approve Mr. Merrill's variance to allow for a 5-foot height increase on the eave line. Would that be correct, staff?
Yeah, a 5-foot variance would allow the proposal to move forward.
Okay, a 5-foot variance for Mr. Merrill's proposal.
Given the amendment, Maria, do you continue to second?
No, I'll second. That's fine.
Tom, you state your full name and your vote.
Tom Halliday, I approve. I vote yes.
Maria?
Maria Wyndon, aye.
Andrew Rennick, yes. So with that, the 5-foot variance necessary for the Mr. Merrill's project to proceed has been approved. Since Wes is not here to do his customary thank you for engaging the process, I'll do that on his the unofficial behalf. Mr. Merrill, Mr. Anderson, and your neighbors, we are grateful that you went through this process, that you engage your community in this way, and we're grateful for your commitment to your neighborhood.
And I also just want to thank staff too for all their hard work.
Yeah, I'll agree.
All right. Well, with that, we will close the meeting for this month.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.